This man always thought his relationship was solid, built on trust and companionship. But one night, while his partner casually smiled and suggested an open relationship, something inside him broke. She wanted to explore new experiences, but she didn't expect him to do the same. She went out on her dates while he sank into silence, until someone appeared to him who had always been close, but for the first time, he saw her for real. Now his partner watches as her castle crumbles. The game she started got out of her control, and for the first time, it wasn't him who was suffering. My girlfriend wanted an open relationship, so I slept with her best friend. Now, she's losing her mind. I never imagined I'd post about relationships here, but I need to vent and share my story. I'm 28, and until recently, I thought I had a solid relationship with my 27-year-old girlfriend Sophie. We've been together for 3 years, living together for 2, and honestly, everything was going great. So much so that I was secretly looking at engagement rings during my lunch breaks. That's how good things were. We met through mutual friends during a board game night, a super normal story. She laughed at my silly jokes. I like how competitive she was at Monopoly, and we just connected. We started dating almost immediately. After a year, we decided to move in together because it just made sense. We spent most of our time at each other's houses anyway. We created our routines, pancakes on Sunday mornings, walks in the park after work, watching those terrible reality shows she loves while I played on my phone. Just normal couple stuff. Sophie works in marketing. I'm a project manager in construction. We both have good jobs, good friends, and our families get along great. My mom loves her. Her dad always invites me to watch football. We were that couple that others said gave hope to relationships. Yes, I know how it sounds now. Everything was perfectly normal until last Tuesday. We were having dinner, Sophie was telling me about a work project, and I was in the middle of my sandwich when suddenly she drops. "Hey, what do you think about trying an open relationship?" I literally froze mid-bite. I thought I had heard wrong, but no. She kept talking about how she had read about it online, how many couples were experimenting with it these days, and how it could help us grow individually and strengthen our relationship. "Is there anyone specific you want to date?" I asked because honestly, that was my first suspicion. Who talks about open relationships out of nowhere unless they already have someone in mind? She immediately got defensive. No, it's not about another person. I just think it would be good for us to explore more. We're still young, and I don't want us to wake up in 10 years wondering what we missed. I sat there trying to process what was happening. Is this the same girl who got mad because a waitress smiled at me too much? And now she's talking about dating other people, as if she were suggesting we try a new restaurant? Unhappy, I asked in case I had missed something, if there were signs I should have noticed. "No way," she said, reaching out to take my hand. "I love you. I love what we have. This isn't about being unhappy. It's about making our relationship even better. Think about it. We could have new experiences, but we'd always come back to each other. Many couples say it strengthens the connection." I didn't know what to say. My mind was stuck between confusion and panic. My appetite completely disappeared. The food in front of me might as well have been cardboard. Sophie, on the other hand, was excited, practically glowing as she spoke, discussing boundaries, rules, communication, but all I could think was, where is this coming from? And yet, yes, I know, this makes me seem like a complete coward. I said, "Okay," not because I wanted to, not because I believed in it, but because the enthusiasm in her eyes, the way she leaned in, practically begging me to agree, made it clear that she had already made a decision. Saying no seemed like closing a door she had no intention of closing. "Are you sure you're okay with this?" she asked, her eyes wide open, as if she were really giving me a choice. "We don't have to do this if you're not comfortable." I looked at her, saw how desperate she was for me to agree, and deep down I knew this wasn't really a choice. Like it or not, something was already changing between us, and if I wanted to understand what was really happening, I had to play the game. "No, it's fine," I said, forcing a nod. "If you think it will be good for us, we can try it." And so, I entered something I didn't believe in, knowing deep down that I was already losing her. Sophie got really excited and started talking about how we should create profiles on dating apps together, how we should have a system to let each other know when we had scheduled dates. All those details she had clearly already thought about. Meanwhile, I was sitting there wondering, how long has she been planning this? The rest of the night was strange. We watched TV like usual, but my mind was racing. Sophie was lying on the couch next to me as if everything was perfectly normal, as if she hadn't just suggested completely changing our relationship. I wanted to back out, say that I wasn't actually okay with this, but I didn't know how. Every time I looked at her, scrolling through her feed on her phone with a smile on her face, I felt more and more like I had just made a huge mistake. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. Sophie was sleeping deeply next to me, peaceful as always, while I stared at the ceiling, wondering what the hell I had gotten myself into. Part of me wanted to wake her up and tell her no, that I didn't want to share her with anyone else. But another part of me was afraid that if I said no, she'd do it anyway or leave me for someone else. So I stayed there, replaying every recent conversation, trying to figure out if there had been signs I had missed. Was she bored? Was I not enough for her? Was there already someone else? The questions kept coming, and I had no answers for any of them. I had no idea that this was just the beginning of how horrible things were about to get. The next day, Sophie spent the whole night setting up her profiles on Tinder and Bumble, asking for my help picking photos like this was totally normal for a boyfriend. She even asked me to take new photos for her. I played the game. I took pictures of my girlfriend so she could look attractive to other men. I tried to set up my own profile too, just to show that I was making an effort, but my heart wasn't in it. Every time I tried to write a bio, it felt weird and fake. What was I supposed to write? In a relationship, but looking for fun, all of this made me feel disgusting. I think she knew I wouldn't go out with anyone because I'm not social and I don't have the time or energy to meet new people. I told her that several times, so she probably thought she could go on her dates and keep me as her backup plan. Sophie started getting matches right away. Obviously, she's beautiful and fun, but what really bothered me was how quickly it all started. In 1 week of dating those guys, she already had 3 dates scheduled. 3. She would show me their profiles like we were gossiping about celebrities or something. "Look at this one," she would say, shoving her phone in my face. "He's a personal trainer at that fancy downtown gym. We're having coffee in the morning." "Look at this one," she would say, shoving her phone in my face. "He's a personal trainer at that fancy downtown gym. We're having coffee in the morning." I would just nod and try to act like this was completely normal and chill. The first time she got ready for a date, I felt a knot in my stomach. She put on a black dress I had never seen before. Yes, she bought new clothes for this. And she spent almost an hour doing her makeup. When she came out of our room, she twirled around and asked excitedly, "How do I look?" "Great," I managed to say, while thinking how that dress probably cost more than I used to spend on our dates. She came back late that night, laughing and happy. I pretended to be asleep when she lay down, but I heard her texting someone for at least an hour. The next morning, she was humming while making coffee, acting like everything was perfect. I started paying attention to her schedule. Monday, coffee with the gym guy. Wednesday, dinner with a lawyer. Friday, drinks with a food truck owner. Yes, the variety was interesting. Every time she came back home, it seemed like she had the best night of her life. I started checking the locations she tagged on Instagram. It wasn't my proudest moment, but I needed to know what was really going on. One night, I went to the restaurant where she said she'd be having dinner. I saw her sitting at the bar with a tall guy in a suit, laughing at whatever he was saying. She had her hand on his arm, looking at him the same way she used to look at me. The worst part wasn't even seeing her with those guys. It was how she changed at home. She started spending much less time with me. No more cuddling on the couch. Always on her phone, exchanging messages. Our Sunday pancake ritual forgotten because now she was going out for lunch with her friends. I tried to talk to her about it once. "Don't you think you're going on too many dates?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She looked at me like I was ridiculous. That's the point of an open relationship, right? Meeting new people, having new experiences. You should try it too. I can help you with your profile if you want. But I didn't want help with my profile. I wanted my girlfriend back. I wanted the person who was excited to order pizza and watch bad movies with me. Not this new version who was always put together and walking out the door. One night, she was getting ready for another date. Guy number? I had already lost count, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I went out for a walk and ended up in a park where we used to have picnics. I sat there for about 2 hours, thinking about how everything had fallen apart so quickly. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating with messages from her. I hope you're okay. I'm having an amazing time. Don't wait up for me. Each message felt like a stab. The next day, she tried to tell me about the date. A story about how the guy was fun and had taken her to an amazing restaurant. I just stood up and left the room. She followed me with a confused expression. I thought you were okay with this, she said, genuinely surprised. You said you were okay with this. Well, maybe I'm not. I finally blurted out. But you could be dating other people too. You're choosing to stay home and be unhappy. That's when I realized she really didn't understand. She couldn't see that I didn't want to date other people. I wanted her, the old her, the one who loved our simple, peaceful life together. By that point, 3 weeks had passed since she started with this open relationship thing. 3 weeks of watching her get ready for other men. 3 weeks lying in bed, imagining where she was, what she was doing, and with whom. 3 weeks feeling like I was losing my mind. Honestly, I thought at some point she would realize how ridiculous all of this was. I thought she would wake up and see what she was ruining. But that never happened. No doubts. No regrets. On the contrary, she seemed proud. She walked around like she had discovered a higher level of love and relationships. Like she understood something the rest of us were too foolish to grasp. And the worst part, I couldn't understand why. She seemed happy with me before. So why throw it all away? Why act like what we had wasn't enough? That's when I finally understood. There was no way to fix this. There was no turning back. It was over in a way that couldn't be undone. And for the first time, I wasn't even sure if I cared anymore. The idea of her out there, enjoying life without a worry, while I was drowning in all of this, something clicked in my head. I wanted her to regret everything. I wanted her to see exactly what she was throwing away. But that didn't mean I had a plan yet. I just knew I wasn't going to sit around suffering while she had fun. I still hadn't decided what my next step would be. I just knew I needed to talk to someone. Someone who truly understood how absurd all of this was. And that's when Emma started showing up more often. Emma is Sophie's best friend from freshman year of college. She's always been there for our movie nights, helping us move furniture, bringing soup when one of us was sick. One of those genuine people, you know? She's a preschool teacher, which makes perfect sense because she has a special way of making everyone feel heard and important. I never saw her as anything other than Sophie's friend. Yes, she was always pretty. Brown hair, green eyes, a constant smile. But in my mind, she was always in the friend zone. Plus, she dated a guy named Mark for about 2 years, but they broke up a few months ago. The first time she showed up after Sophie started with the open relationship thing was to borrow some bowls and bake a birthday cake. Sophie was busy with some new guy. Emma immediately noticed that something was wrong with me. "You look awful," she said, with that direct way she has of talking. Did something happen? I hadn't planned on telling her everything, but it just came out. I told her how Sophie dropped this idea out of nowhere. How she was going out with different guys almost every night. How I felt like I was losing my mind watching all of it happen. Emma stayed there really listening, not just waiting for her turn to speak. When I finished, she shook her head. That's not an open relationship. That's just Sophie doing whatever she wants without caring what it means for you. Hearing someone else say it made me feel less crazy. After that, Emma started spending more time with me. Normally, when Sophie went on her dates, we watched movies, ordered food, just hung out. It was nice to have someone to talk to. Someone who knew both sides and understood the situation. One night, about a month after Sophie started her exploration, Emma came to my house. She seemed nervous. She played with her necklace, a habit of hers I knew she did when she was anxious. "I need to tell you something, and this might make things awkward, but I can't keep pretending anymore," she said, sitting at the other end of the couch. My stomach twisted in a strange way. I think a part of me already knew what was coming. "I've had feelings for you for a long time," she said, looking at her hands. "Even before you and Sophie were together. But you were with her, and she's my best friend, so I never said anything. I started dating Mark thinking it would help me get over it, but it didn't work." I sat there, trying to process everything. Emma, sweet, funny, beautiful Emma, had feelings for me. How did I never notice? She helped me pick out gifts for Sophie. The same Sophie who now, I wasn't even sure if she wanted something serious with me. Emma, who made me chicken soup when I was sick. while Sophie barely bothered to send me a message to ask how I was. I had been blind all this time. You don't have to say anything, she continued. I just needed you to know. Seeing how Sophie treats you like this, seeing how much she's hurting you, it's killing me inside. You deserve better. I looked at her, really looked at her. Maybe for the first time, that simple green sweater somehow made her eyes shine. And her hair was tied up in one of those messy buns. The kind that's not supposed to be attractive, but on her, it looked perfect. And in that moment, I wondered how the hell I had never noticed it before. At the same time, Sophie's actions still burned in the back of my mind. Did she really think I'd sit around waiting like some loyal idiot while she paraded around with not just one, but several guys? Like I was just a safety net for when she wanted to come back? That was her biggest mistake. She was out there doing whatever she wanted, thinking I'd still be available when she decided to return. Not for me. That chapter was closed. I wasn't going to play by her rules anymore. I would play by mine. I decided to take the risk. I took a deep breath. I felt that moment of change. That instant when I finally took control. Emma, I started, my voice steadier than I expected. She moved closer on the couch. I know this is complicated. I know I'm probably making everything worse by telling you this, but seeing you so unhappy these last few weeks, I couldn't stay silent anymore. And then she kissed me. She just leaned in and kissed me. I should have stopped her. I should have thought about Sophie, about our friendship, about how this would make everything even more complicated. But instead, I kissed her back. And it wasn't just a kiss. We ended up spending the night together. And it was different. Emma noticed me. She really cared about me. She noticed when something on my face changed. She asked what I was thinking and genuinely cared about the answer. Afterward, lying there in the dark, I let everything sink into my mind. How far things had gone. How everything had changed. The realization that I had just slept with my girlfriend's best friend. Something that should have seemed like crossing a line. But all I could think about was how right it felt. This wasn't just a meaningless rebound or an impulsive mistake. She turned to me, propping herself up on her elbow, her eyes searching mine. What are we going to do? She asked, her voice low but steady. I sighed, looking at the ceiling. I should have had an answer. I should have felt guilt, conflict, something. But all I felt was relief. Like I could finally breathe after weeks of drowning in Sophie's chaos. I don't know, I admitted. Emma paused for a moment and then said, I don't regret it. And you? The craziest thing, neither did I. Not for a second. Because for the first time since this whole open relationship mess started, I saw everything clearly. I wasn't the one who destroyed us. I wasn't the one who broke the trust. And maybe, just maybe, I deserve someone who really cared about me. Only me. Sophie is going to lose it when she finds out, I said. Probably, Emma nodded. But isn't it funny how she thinks it's perfectly normal to date other people? But the idea of you doing the same would drive her crazy. She was right. And that's when I decided that maybe it was time for Sophie to taste her own medicine. I didn't tell her about Emma right away. Part of me wanted to see how she would react to little clues first. Yeah, maybe that was petty, but after weeks of watching her parade around with different guys, I felt like she deserved to know what it was like to be on the other side. The morning after Emma's visit, Sophie came home after spending the night at Jessica's. I was almost sure Jessica was actually a guy named Jason, but it didn't matter. She was all excited, talking about her girls' night while making coffee. That's when I dropped the first hint. Oh, Emma came by last night, I said as casually as possible. We had a really good conversation. Sophie's hand froze on the coffee machine. Emma was here? Yeah, we hung out. She's really easy to talk to, you know? Sophie slammed her cup down on the table a little too hard, spilling some coffee on the counter. What did you talk about? Oh, just stuff, I shrugged. Life, relationships, feelings. It was good. Her expression was priceless. The next hour passed with her texting someone, probably trying to get details from Emma while pretending to watch TV with me. But I could see her, and every few minutes, she'd throw me glances, trying to figure out what had happened. In the following days, I began to mention Emma more and more. How fun she was, how she really understood me, how we talked a lot. Each time I did, Sophie would make a tense expression, trying not to react, but failing miserably. One morning, I was smiling while texting Emma, and Sophie practically jumped onto the couch to spy. "Who are you texting?" She tried to sound casual, but completely failed. "Emma," I replied. "She's really hooked on this new series I recommended." Sophie's face made that strange movement, trying to smile, but looking like she was in pain. "You two have been talking a lot lately." "Yeah, she's great to talk to. She really gets me, you know." Sophie started doing something new, checking my phone when I left it nearby. She thought she was being discreet, but I caught her sliding through my messages every time she thought I was in the bathroom or the kitchen. The funny thing was that I had already deleted anything. It seemed perfect, and at that moment, I wondered how the hell I never noticed it before. At the same time, Sophie's actions continued to burn in the back of my mind. Did she really think I would sit around like a loyal idiot while she paraded around with not just one, but several guys, as if I were just a safety net to come back to whenever she wanted? That was her biggest mistake. She went around doing whatever she pleased, thinking I would still be available when she decided to come back. Not for me. That chapter was closed. I wasn't going to play by her rules anymore. I was going to play by mine. I decided to take the risk. I took a deep breath. I felt that moment of change, that instant when I finally took control. "Emma," I started, my voice firmer than I expected. She moved closer on the couch. "I know this is complicated. I know I'm probably making it worse by telling you this, but seeing you so unhappy these last few weeks, I just couldn't stay silent anymore." Then she kissed me. She simply leaned in and kissed me. I should have stopped her. I should have thought about Sophie, about our friendship, about how this would make everything even more complicated. But instead, I kissed her back. And it wasn't just a kiss. We ended up spending the night together. It was different. Emma noticed me. She truly cared about me. She noticed when something on my face changed. She asked what I was thinking and really cared about the answer. Afterward, lying in the dark, I let everything sink in. How far everything had gone. How everything had changed. The realization that I had just slept with my girlfriend's best friend. Something that should have seemed like crossing a line. But the only thing I could think of was how right it felt. This wasn't just a meaningless rebound or an impulsive mistake. She turned toward me, propping herself up on her elbow, her eyes searching mine. "What are we going to do?" she asked, her voice low but steady. I sighed, staring at the ceiling. I should have had an answer. I should have felt guilt, conflict, something. But all I felt was relief, like I could finally breathe after weeks of suffocating in the chaos of Sophie. "I don't know," I admitted. Emma hesitated for a moment, then said, "I don't regret it. And you?" The craziest thing, neither did I. Not for a second. Because, for the first time since this whole open relationship mess began, I saw everything clearly. I wasn't the one who destroyed us. I wasn't the one who broke the trust. And maybe, just maybe, I deserve someone who truly cared about me. Only me. "Sophie is going to lose it when she finds out," I said. "Probably," Emma agreed. "But isn't it funny how she thinks it's perfectly fine to date other people? But the idea of you doing the same would drive her crazy?" She was right. That was when I decided it might be time for Sophie to taste her own medicine. I didn't tell her about Emma right away. Part of me wanted to see how she'd react to small hints first. Yes, maybe that was petty, but after weeks of watching her parade around with different guys, I thought she deserved to know what it felt like to be on the other side. The morning after Emma left, Sophie came back home after staying at Jessica's place. I was almost sure Jessica was actually a guy named Jason, but it didn't matter. She was all excited, talking about her girls' night while making coffee. That's when I dropped the first hint. "Oh, Emma stopped by last night," I said as casually as possible. We had a really good conversation. Sophie's hand froze over the coffee maker. "Emma was here?" "Yeah, we hung out. She's really easy to talk to, you know." Sophie slammed the cup down a little too hard, spilling some coffee on the countertop. "What did you talk about?" "Oh, just stuff," I shrugged. "Life, relationships, feelings." It was nice. The look on her face was priceless. She spent the next hour texting someone, probably trying to get details out of Emma, while pretending to watch TV with me. But I could see her, every few minutes throwing me glances, trying to figure out what had happened. In the following days, I started mentioning Emma more and more. How fun she was, how she really understood me, how we had been talking a lot lately. Every time I talked about her, Sophie made a tense expression, trying not to react, but failing miserably. One morning, I was smiling while texting Emma, and Sophie practically jumped onto the couch to spy. "Who are you texting?" She tried to sound casual, but failed completely. "Emma," I replied. "She's totally hooked on this new series I recommended." Sophie's face made that strange gesture, trying to smile, but looking like she was in pain. "You two have been talking a lot lately," she commented. "Yeah, she's great to talk to. She really gets me, you know." Sophie started doing something new, checking my phone when I left it nearby. She thought she was being discreet, but I caught her checking my messages every time she thought I was in the bathroom or kitchen. The funny thing was, I had already deleted any real evidence of what had happened with Emma. I left only messages that were normal enough to make her suspicious and drive her crazy. Then, Sophie started showing up in places where she knew I'd be. She'd mentioned going for coffee near work, and suddenly, there she was. She'd say she was going out with friends to a bar, and an hour later, she'd casually show up. But the best part, she started canceling her own dates. She suddenly spent more time at home, wanting to watch movies or cook with me. It was like watching someone try to mark their territory without admitting that's what they were doing. Until finally, after countless failed attempts to get closer to me, she asked directly, "Are you seeing someone else? Isn't that the point of an open relationship? Dating other people," I replied. "Yeah. But who is it? Is it Emma? Are you sleeping with Emma?" I just smiled and said, "I thought we weren't supposed to share details about our other partners. Isn't that what you said when I asked about your dates?" Sophie lost it. She started checking my followers on Instagram, seeing who liked my photos, analyzing every online interaction. She even started obsessively following Emma on social media, reading every post and story she shared. But the final blow came when Emma posted a selfie in a cafe, the same one I used to go to for coffee in the mornings. Sophie called me immediately. "Are you with Emma now?" I smiled. Let her taste her own medicine. "Did you ever think about how that made me feel?" I said, looking at her with contempt. "That was different," she tried to argue. "Those guys didn't mean anything." "Oh, so that makes it better that you only had empty encounters, while I actually developed real feelings for someone?" She fell silent, staring at me. "Real feelings?" "Yeah, real feelings. Emma and I, it's not just physical. We talk, we really care about each other. When was the last time you and I had a real conversation that wasn't about your dates or your new experiences?" Sophie sat down on the couch, looking defeated. "So, what are you saying? That you want to be with Emma now?" "I'm saying that this open relationship has shown me what I really want, and it's not someone who treats me like a second option." She started crying, big dramatic sobs that probably would have worked on me a month ago, but all I could think about was how she hadn't shed a single tear for all the hurt she had caused me. "We can fix this," she said through her tears. "We can go back to how things were." I shook my head. "No, we can't. Because now I know what it's like to be with someone who truly values me, and I won't settle for less than that ever again." That's when Sophie did something I never expected. She grabbed her keys and stormed out, saying she was going to Emma's house to resolve this once and for all. The moment Sophie walked out the door, I grabbed my phone to warn Emma. When I told her Sophie was coming over, she simply replied, "I'll handle it." Emma was always calm, as if nothing could rattle her. Still, I offered to go there and support her. "No," Emma said. "I'm going to handle this alone. She's been my best friend for 10 years. I owe her that." I spent the next hour pacing back and forth in our apartment, checking my phone every 2 minutes. The place felt strange, like when you know a storm is coming and the air becomes heavy. Finally, Emma called. Her voice was trembling. She showed up shouting, she said. "My neighbors probably heard everything." She was shouting about how I betrayed her, about what a terrible friend I am, about how I had planned this the whole time. "And what did you tell her?" "The truth. That I've had feelings for you for years, but I never did anything because I respected her. That seeing how she treated you like garbage these past few weeks made me realize she never deserved either of us. That what happened between us wasn't planned, but I don't regret it." Apparently, Sophie didn't take it well. She tried to force her way into Emma's apartment. When Emma blocked the door, Sophie started screaming. "She completely lost control," Emma said. "She started listing every time we hung out, trying to prove we'd been secretly having an affair for months. She even mentioned that time last year when I helped you move the couch. When she was too busy with work to help. Sophie seemed to convince herself that every interaction between Emma and me had been a secret sign of betrayal. The day Emma brought me soup when I had the flu was obviously just an excuse to be together. The group movie nights in our apartment, just a facade for us to secretly stare at each other. And then Sophie started crying, like she was collapsing in the doorframe, sobbing and saying she never wanted this to happen. My neighbor came out to check if everything was okay, Emma said. It was humiliating. Finally, Sophie left after my neighbor threatened to call the police because of the commotion. But not before telling me I'd ruined everything and that she'd never forgive me. About 20 minutes after my call with Emma ended, Sophie returned to our apartment. She looked awful. She came in, saw me on my phone, I was texting Emma updates, and just lost it. Are you talking to her now? Planning the next meeting? How long have you two been laughing behind my back? No one is laughing at you, Sophie. You did this. You did this to yourself. I didn't do anything. I suggested an open relationship to make us stronger. I didn't tell you to sleep with my best friend. No, you just wanted permission to be with whoever you wanted while keeping me as your plan B. She started gathering things, our photos, gifts I gave her. She threw them into a box. I'm going to stay at Jessica's house. My real friend. Someone who wouldn't stab me in the back. That's fine with me, I said. Take whatever you want. That stopped her in her tracks. Is that it? Aren't you even going to try to stop me? Why would I? You made it pretty clear what really matters to you. And it's not me or this relationship. She stopped again, sat on the couch, and suddenly seemed smaller. I thought you'd always be there for me. That no matter who else I was with, you'd always be waiting for me. And there it was. The truth, finally spoken. I wasn't her partner. I was her emotional safety net, her security blanket, her guaranteed happy ending while she had fun. Well, you were wrong, I said. I'm not a puppy waiting faithfully at the door while you have fun. I'm a person with feelings. And I deserve more than to be your second option. But you weren't my second option. I love you. No, Sophie. You love having me there when it's convenient for you. That's different. She started crying again. But this time I felt nothing. No urgency to comfort her. No guilt. Nothing. Just emptiness. I'll come tomorrow for the rest of my things. I can't stay here now, she said finally, taking the box. I can't stay here now. After she left, I called Emma. Just hearing her voice made me feel calmer. We talked for hours that night. About Sophie, about us, about what was coming next. Emma mentioned that some mutual friends were already taking sides, and most were calling her a traitor without even knowing the whole story. I don't care, I said. They can think whatever they want. I know it's real. I looked around my apartment, half empty, at the spaces where Sophie's things used to be, and I realized I felt relieved, like I could finally breathe again. I asked Emma to come stay with me, and she agreed. I didn't care about anything else anymore. You loved having me available whenever you wanted. That's different. After they left, Emma helped me clean up the mess. Are you okay? She asked, watching me as I put Sophie's things into a donation box. Yeah, for the first time in months, I really am. It's been 2 weeks since then. My life has been different, better. Emma and I are taking things slow, doing things the right way. Last weekend, we had coffee at her favorite cafe and ended up running into some of Sophie's friends. They completely ignored us. Emma just squeezed my hand and smiled. Sophie keeps telling her version of the story, saying I cheated, that Emma betrayed her, that we always secretly wanted each other. Some people believe her, but the ones who really matter don't. Yesterday, Emma brought some drawings from her preschool students to decorate my empty fridge. Very empty, she said, looking at those colorful scribbles. I realized something. This is what I want. Someone who notices the little details, who cares enough to make my space more welcoming, who shows up with coffee just because I didn't reply to a message. Instead, I spent the night helping Emma grade exams for her class while we watched her new favorite mystery series. Simple, normal, real. Looking back, I'm almost grateful that Sophie suggested the open relationship. Not because it was a good idea, because it wasn't, but because it showed me what I really want in a partner. Someone who chooses me first, not just when it's convenient for them. That's life sometimes. The worst decisions lead you to the best places. Or, in my case, to the right person who was always there all along. Edit. Thanks for the support, Reddit. Emma is reading this over my shoulder and laughing at how I described her. Always smiling. She sent a hello, by the way. This brings us to the end of this story. Open relationships, they're always suggested for one of two reasons. Either they already have someone in mind or they're already cheating and trying to justify it. Either way, the moment they suggest it, it's over. They wanted the security of marriage, but the freedom of a single person without the consequences. But that never ends well. What do you think about this story? What advice would you give the author? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, thank you for the support, and thanks to everyone for watching until the end.